Let's speak now to Benita Lim. She is affected by the fires in Eaton as a PhD candidate from Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena. Thank you very much for joining us, Benita. And we've been seeing images of homes consumed by flames and widespread destruction across the region. I wonder, what was your experience like? What did you see? What did you hear?
Yeah, thanks for letting me share. So on Tuesday night at 6 p.m., we received a notification that there was a fire in Eaton Canyon. And we didn't think that it was going to be that near us. I'm on the northern side of Pasadena, which is on the border of Altadena. And we were preparing to cook some dinner before the power outages came. And we looked outside of our window, and it was like there was fire in the horizon, and it seemed really nearby. We thought that it was just our neighbor's house on fire, but turns out it was Eaton Canyon. So we realized that we were actually really close to the fires. And before we received the evacuation warning, we decided to evacuate ourselves first. And true enough, just about maybe 10 minutes later, we received evacuation notice.
Oh. Right. California has a long history of wildfires, and you told us off air that this is not your first fire that you're experiencing. How does it compare to, your previous experiences or fires that you've heard about?
Yeah, so the previous fire that I experienced was in 2020 during the pandemic. So the pandemic was already ongoing, and then there were fires. And these fires were thankfully not as close to me, but I could see traces of it on the freeway, like Mordor, in the distance. And the air really was quite bad. The sky was red, and we decided to evacuate then also. But I think that fire, wasn't as close to home this time.
Okay, I can't imagine how difficult this must be being your second time. I understand you've evacuated to your friend's home right now. What's been the hardest part of dealing with the fires, and what are your biggest fears or concerns as we hear firefighters continue to battle these blazes?
Yeah, my heart really goes out to the firefighters. They have been working round the clock relentlessly over the past maybe 48 hours. And they have not enough resources. I heard, there were fire engines that ran out of water, or fire hydrants that didn't have water, and some structures were just left burning. And I also found out that some of the familiar spaces that I would go to, because I'm very near Altadena, some grocery stores, some restaurants that I went to before and frequent, are no longer there. So it is really heartbreaking. Some of my professors' homes have also been burnt down. And so a lot of us are grieving and just struggling to rebuild community again. There are resources, there are people banding together to help. Some restaurants in neighboring cities have offered some free meals to both firefighters and those affected by the fires. So yeah, it is heartbreaking for the losses and the danger that is still ongoing. But we are all trying our best to help one another out, I believe, at this point.
Yeah, indeed. Benita, in a time like this, support is definitely crucial. What kind of help, what else, sort of support have you received from, say, local authorities, emergency teams so far? Are there any immediate resources that you feel are still lacking or that you could really use right now?
Yeah, so the Pasadena Convention Center was actually converted into a shelter, and they actually put out a notification just an hour ago that they are no longer taking donations because the response has been overwhelming. So that's good to hear. I've seen resources like community centers, recreational centers, a number of churches that I know are also offering shelter to the public and also food. And yeah, I think there are also other areas, businesses like Airbnb. They are actually collaborating with LA 211, which is a nonprofit that links people to community services. They're offering free temporary housing for displaced residents. And there's also food banks and Red Cross, and the resources are out there. But also there are scammers out there. I received a scam text already today. And there are also looters, as the news has shown earlier. And yeah, I think it's just emotionally very taxing to be able to see through all these information on top of the losses right now.
Yeah, as you mentioned, emotional. I mean, it's not just physical toll, but also psychological impact that can be overwhelming. You did talk about the resiliency of your friends and your community, but I wonder how are your friends, your family are holding up mentally and emotionally?
Yeah, definitely it is tough. I think California Hope, this mental wellness nonprofit organization, actually has this chart on the emotional stages of disaster. So, as ready as some of us or many of us were, because we were one of the windstorms, I think no one was really ready for the impact of the fires. And it's just, between the Eaton fires and the Palisade fires is the distance of Singapore from east to west. That's how close it actually is. And you know everything just still feels very sudden. Homes are gone, precious memories, people living in houses for ages, historic houses in Pasadena and Altadena, which there are many, synagogue buildings, which is over like 85 years old buildings, all gone. And I think many of us are probably just running on adrenaline right now. I think myself included. I'm also recovering from an ankle surgery, so I wish I could do
Oh,
more to help, but
Mm.
it's really hard to just be a bystander or just not being able to do anything at this point. So yeah, I think there's going to be impact, and then trying to help each other and band together, but the grief is also still there, and it may set in later. Like it'll come in waves, and as people rebuild, this will just keep going up and down until we get there.
Yeah. Benita, I just want to follow up on the observations that you're talking about. We're hearing reports as well that residents, they were trying to respond to the evacuation orders, but in some areas it's hard to leave. Talking about the traffic situation, the way, these areas are sort of designed, many gated communities. And so, entry and exit is quite limited, quite narrow. I wonder if you could share more about that.
Yeah, sure. So what I heard is that the Palisades is actually a lot more gated, like there are a lot more gated residences, so it's harder to leave. As Altadena and Pasadena has a lot more exits. So what I experienced when I was leaving was that traffic was heavy. I took the main road, which I regretted a little because traffic was heavy there as compared to if I went south through the smaller roads. But I think everyone was very cooperative. I think there was no one honking or rushing one another. And I also left pretty shortly after the evacuation warning came about. So I think at the point of my departure, the traffic wasn't that bad yet. Yeah, but you could also see, trees that have fallen, branches that have fallen, traffic lights that are, bent over, signs that have fallen, traffic signs that have fallen onto the ground. So we were also trying to navigate all of that, even as we were driving out. So that was quite the experience.
I'm sure, Benita. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there for now, but thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us and share your story. And do stay safe. We've been speaking to Benita Lim in California.